साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि साईश्वराय विद्महे साईश्वराय प्रचोदयात् साईश्वराय विद्महे प्रचोदयात् सत्यदेवाय धीमहि साईश्वराय विद्महे प्रचोदयात् सत्यदेवाय धीमहि साईश्वराय विद्महे प्रचोदयात् साईश्वराय साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् 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 साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। 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 साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। 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 साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्।
Om Shri Sai Ram, offering our most humble, loving, and prayerful pranams at Bhagavan's divine lotus feet. After a wonderful 5 days of the Sai Gayathree Saptaham, by Bhagavan's grace, today we are really blessed to have two more of very close devotees who are the brothers of Shri Ghandikota Aryama, who has been sharing experiences with Swami the last 3 days. I would like to warmly welcome Shri Ghandikota Ramesh and Shri Ghandikota Ravi Garu to our Sai Saptaham today. A quick introduction, both of them the sons of Shri Ghandikota Subba Rao Garu and Srimati Lakshmi Devi Garu. Shri Ghandikota Ramesh was born and brought up in United States at Queens, New York. He completed his undergraduate studies in Canada and graduate degree at Columbia University in New York. In 1985, he moved to Austria, Vienna with his wife, Srimati Annapurna, and their young daughter, Sai Lakshmi, where he took up the position of a technical editor at the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA. He retired from the IAEA in the year 2013 after almost 28 years and ended his career as management coordinator and communication advisor. During his career and stint at Austria, Sri Ramesh Garu has been a very active member and also, in fact, one of the founding members of the Vienna, Austria Sai Center. And he, along with his family, moved back in 2014. They now live in Hamilton, New Jersey, and are part of the East Brunswick Sai Center there, which is a very active center. Sri Ramesh Garu has 3 children, Srimati Sai Lakshmi, Sri Shivamala, and Sri Harshvardhan. All 3 of them who are named by Bhagavan. And Bhagavan has also graciously performed the upanayanam ceremony for Harshvardhan along with the sons of Sri Ghandikota Aryama's son, Jayavardhan and Aryavardhan, in 1999 in the month of February. They say that marriages are made in heaven. If with Swami's permission I can say, for the Ghandikota family, marriages are made in Puttaparthi. I'm very happy to also share that Srimati Sai Lakshmi, who is now settled with Mr. Varun Ram in Maryland, USA, Swami had performed their marriage in 2008, November, at Prasanthi Nilayam. Sri Varun Ram is none other than the son of very, very famous Sai devotees, Srimati Geeta Ram, who is the daughter of Padmanabhan Garu. We've all seen him with Swami at very, very close proximity in Whitefield. Varun and Sai Lakshmi, they have 2 daughters, Namrita and Karuna. And Sri Ramesh will be starting the session today, but before we move to that, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to Sri Ravi Shankar Garu. And it's a very, very pleasant duty for me, extra pleasant, I should say, because very rarely you get to introduce somebody who is your alumni, senior. So the best introduction I would say for Sri Ravi Shankar Garu is he has been a student of Swami and had the privilege of joining Swami's college at Prasanthi Nilayam in 1981. He completed his bachelor's, his master's degree in commerce business. And he was very, very active in all of the sports and extracurricular activities, so much that Brother Ravi received from Swami's hand, divine hands, the best all-round student gold medal, which is one of the coveted recognitions that one can get. After his studies, Sri Ravi Garu stayed back in Swami's college to serve as a lecturer in commerce from the years 1986 to 1992 at Vrindavan campus of the Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. Almost a picture-perfect Sai story, one can say, because I say picture-perfect because he was always seeing Swami, who is our hidden divine cameraman. Sri Ravi Garu was seeing him behind the lens of his camera, as he had the very unique opportunity of taking photos of Bhagwan during his years as student and lecturer at Vrindavan. Swami graciously also blessed Sri Ravi Shankar's wedding to Aladini and his brother Sanjay Ghandikota Garu, who is going to talk to us tomorrow with Ghandikota Manohar Garu. And incidentally, both of them were married to the daughters of Srimati Kasturi and Sri Satyamurthy, who is a former trust convener and state president of Sri Satya Sai organization of Andhra Pradesh in 1990. A double blessing, Swami performed double wedding of two brothers, Sri Ghandikota Ravi Shankar Garu and Sri Ghandikota Sanjay Garu, to the two daughters who were incidentally sisters. At Swami's divine guidance and direction, Sri Ravi Shankar and Srimati Aladini came back to the US in 1992, and they currently live in New Jersey, where they are very, very active again with the Sai activities of the Edison Sai Center in New Jersey. Edison being, the India area, if you can say, of New Jersey. They live there with their sons, Sai Chiranjeevi and daughter Manurmukhi. And no prizes for guessing again. Divine Grace, their names also, the children of Sri Ravi Shankar Garu, named by Bhagwan himself. Sri Ravi Shankar Garu is also, like Sri Ramesh Garu, who was very active in Austria in all the seva and devotional activities. Sri Ravi Garu is also very active there, very familiar face, inspiring a lot of youth and young adults, as they call in the US. He's also an SSC Balvika's teacher for the Group 4. So a pretty detailed introduction was necessary because I don't think the Saptaham is going to do justice to the Ghandikota family, who have so many myriad experiences with our beloved Bhagwan. We will shortly hear from both Sri Ramesh Garu and Sri Ravi Shankar Garu in that order, followed by Q&A. But before we begin, as always, we start with a video bhajan, Mantratmike, where we will relive the Ghandikota family's wonderful experiences with Bhagwan. Jai Sai Ram, requesting the video to be played.
Mantratmike janani janani Mantratmike janani janani Manobhishta prade janani Manobhishta prade janani Mantratmike janani janani Shringagiri nivasini janani Shringagiri nivasini janani Sharade 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 शारदे शारदे मन्त्रात्मिके जननी जननी
Sai Ram, brothers and sisters. I hope you can hear me. I'm sure I'll be told if you cannot. Could we go back to the first slide, please? One more back, please. Can you go back one more slide? Oh, that's the first. Slide number 1, please. Okay.
We just need to slide up the scroll bar to the first slide, the slide before the one we're seeing.
Yeah, the first slide. Yes, thank you. My most humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of our Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba. As you can see, he is behind and above me and all of us, sitting, and my father is sitting next to him. I'd like to thank all of you. Let me go back and say first that with Swami's grace, I hope all of you are safe and healthy during this very challenging time in our lives all over the world. I'm honored to have been invited to participate in this virtual Sai Gayathree Saptaham satsang that's been organized by the Sri Satya Sai Seva organizations, Chennai East Coast District. My thanks to all of those who've been involved in organizing this blessed event and in helping to guide me through the Zoom process, since I'm a very non-technical person. Next slide, please. I'd like to talk to you today about a very simple expression by Swami to his devotees, and that is why fear when I am here, is what he has said. It's very simple to understand. It's not a complicated concept, because he says, the way I understand it, he says, surrender to me and I will take care of everything. And today I want to talk about how this simple principle of Swami has helped me and my family get through various challenges in life. So the first, Brother Ramesh was kind enough to go through my background. And of course, the bulk of my life has now been spent in Austria, in Vienna, Austria. 2 of my 3 children were born there. And we had a wonderful time there with Swami's grace. The story I want to tell you about in terms of exemplifying the concept of why fear when I am here, when he's the refuge, the sole refuge. He's the Sharanagati to us. The story begins at the end of the weddings of my 2 younger brothers, Ravi Shankar and Sanjay, which Swami performed in 1990. Swami had called us all in for an interview, and in the course of all of us thanking Swami for the various things that he has helped us with in our lives, he said, quite unasked, he said, yes, and you will also have a son. At that time, we had our 2 daughters, Sai Lakshmi and Sivamala. So, and then lo and behold, by the fall, my wife Annapurna was expecting, and we were, of course, very happy, and we were looking forward to the birth of the child. But what now comes is where the why fear when I am here and I will take care of everything really applies, because I can say that the miracles started happening on a weekday morning. We were all up and getting ready for work and school when my wife came out and said she had broken her water. Now, this was not good news at that time because she had just completed her 6th month. So I still remember that moment with crystal clarity, which is when she came out and told me that I had a sudden sort of a shudder. And then the first thing I thought was, well, the first thing I did was ask if she's all right. And she said she was, but she said, we have to go to the hospital right away. My next thought was to pray to Swami, to say, Swami, I don't know what to do. Please take care of things. Now, and that's where I think I basically said to Swami, you have to take over now because I know nothing. So, and the miracles then started, because 10 minutes after I'd finished talking to the doctor and he said, go to the hospital, our doorbell rang and in comes our household help. I had forgotten that she was supposed to come, but she came there. And so the first thing we did was I told her, can you please stay with the young children while I take my wife to the hospital? And she said, no problem, you take as long as you want. And so she was with the kids. So I drove her to the hospital, she was admitted, and the doctor said basically that she is she has lost amniotic fluid, but her body is continuing to produce this. But he said she cannot move for the foreseeable future. So at that point, of course, there was, my mind was in chaos. But then I started thinking we have to start doing things. First thing I wanted to do was call my mother and father so that they could perhaps convey this to Swami. I also sent a telegram to Swami immediately. In those days, there was no email. I'm talking 1991. So I sent a telegram to Swami asking for his help. So, so then we went through the process. I had admitted her. I was there for the day. I called my boss, and and the second miracle was that the boss said, don't worry about office. You come and go as you want. You don't have to tell me anything. Just take care of your family. So I said, wow, okay, I will do that probably. And he said, I'm not joking. You do exactly as you see fit. So I took care of, I had admitted my wife in the hospital and we went. And then the next problem or the next issue was I had to talk to my parents. Now, again, from Austria in those days, making an international call was not so easy. You had to book what in the old days in India was called a trunk call. So I had to book a call to my father in Puttaparthi. And by the time I got through to him, because it wasn't easy, when I finally got through to him, he said, I'm amazed, Ramesh, because Swami just told me the other day that he was filling the bag. And then he walked away. He didn't say he didn't go beyond that. He just said, I'm filling the bag. And my father could not at that time understand. My call then gave him the full background, which was that the water bag was the amniotic sac that had broken prematurely. Sorry. So then I said, Nana, would you be able to, you and Mom, will you be able to come? Because I foresee there will be some issues in terms the fact that Annapurna my wife will have to be in the hospital for a while. So then he said, well, let me see. But the next day, I don't know the exact time sequence, and you can find this story also written by my father on the saidarshan.org website under Interviews, Inner Vistas, and Inmost Visions. He writes of his experience from that side with Swami. So it soon became clear, according to the doctors, that my wife would not be able to go home because though she was losing amniotic fluid, her body continued to produce it, but so that the rate of loss was equal by the rate of production, but they were not going to send her home until she actually stopped losing. So, and by the time my father was able to ask Swami if it would be appropriate to go to Vienna, to come to Vienna to help, Swami said, no, you don't need to go. You both stay here and enjoy your time here. No cause for worry. I will take care of everything. So here we come to the third sentence of that saying by Swami, I shall guide you and guard you. Well, he certainly was guarding and guiding, guiding and guarding us. Because over the next 2 months, my wife was in the hospital. She continued to lose fluid, but continued to produce fluid. So Swami was literally, as he told my father, filling the water bag. And anyone with a medical background, and even if you don't have a medical background, will realize that this is a dangerous situation. And that's why the doctors absolutely refused to let her go home. So over the next 2 months, I had to function as mother and father to these two children. I must say I was not a very good mother because there were many things I had to start doing myself, which is really posed a challenge to me. The biggest challenge being, how do I comb and braid the hair of my two young daughters? Fortunately, some friends came over for the first week or so to help me with that. And once in a while when I went to the hospital, my wife would do it. But the third miracle, or yet another miracle, came when my household help came and told me, listen, I can't come every day to take care of the children, but my aunt has just arrived from the Philippines and she needs some employment. Would you be willing to take her to take care of your children? So I talked to the lady and she was very nice. And I said, please, from now on, you have to pick up the children from school in the afternoons, take them home, feed them, and wait until I come home. And this is what that lady did for the next 2 months, very, very conscientiously and very lovingly. So here's another example of Swami's loving care. He sent somebody all the way from the Philippines to take care of my children. And then another miracle came. A good friend of ours, whose husband worked in the UN complex in Vienna, she had talked to Annapurna before, saying that she had a household helper who could help with the cooking in the house if she ever needed. Who would have expected that we would need this? So immediately I called that person and she said, I'll send him over right away. And for the next 2 months, he was cooking for us and making very tasty Indian food for us. And this at a time when in Vienna, there were very few, in fact, there were no Indian stores, and it was difficult to get anything for us to eat in terms of Indian food. This young man made samosas, made chapatis, and other excellent food for us on a regular basis for the next 2-3 months. So here's how Swami helped me. He knew what a useless household homemaker I was. And so he made sure there was a lady to come and take care of the children, comb their hair, braid it, do the dishes. And then he sent another young man to cook food for us. All I had to do was get up in the morning, get the children to school, go sit in the office, come home, pick up the children, and go to the hospital to visit my wife. I mean, why? And this continued until the day came when the baby was born. And at the other end, Swami was keeping my parents fully briefed. By now, they were in Kodaikanal. And Swami actually told them, you come with me and enjoy your time there. So apparently, so they went there, and Swami kept keeping them up to speed without me having called my parents to tell them what was going on. And this was the amazing thing, is that my father kept telling me, Swami asked, and we told him what, and he said, and so finally the day came when my wife reached her 9th month, and the doctor said, okay, now we can have the baby. The baby was born, and it was a boy. And this is from my father's side. Apparently, Swami came to him and stood in front of him and said, where are the sweets? So my father was like, Swami, what do you mean? Well, you had a grandson from your daughter-in-law in Vienna. So you should give us sweets. So then in the course of that joking back and forth, Swami then said, how do you feel, Subba Rao, about this? So my father thought for a moment, and he said, Swami, naku chala harshanga undi annaru, in Telugu, which means, Swami, I'm feeling very joyful. So then Swami said, okay, his name now will be Harshavardhan. And in the course of these discussions afterwards, Swami said, you know, I took care of everything. I ensured I did Garbha Raksha and Prana Raksha. Garbha Raksha is obvious because he took care of the child all the time that the child was in the womb. Prana Raksha was also important because he saved the life of the mother, because as I was told later by doctors, the biggest danger in such situations of amniotic fluid leaving the body is infection. But not once did she have any infection of any sort. Sorry, this thing, yes. So this was, to me, a fantastic example of Swami showing me that why fear when I am here? I shall guide you. Let your faith in me be strong. I shall guide you and guard you. This is Swami telling us exactly that if any devotee puts his faith in Swami, and it must be unconditional, that's the surrender part. You can't say, Swami, if you help me today, I'll go back to my stuff tomorrow, kind of thing. No, you have to give it to him unconditionally. And that's what I did, because when my wife first told me that she broke the water, I was literally at my wit's end. We were alone. My brothers were here in America. It wasn't easy for them to come there. My parents, whom I thought would come, were told by Swami to stay back. My mother-in-law, who was in India, also would find it difficult to come quickly. In that situation, I just threw myself at his feet. I said, Swami, I don't know what to do, how to do it. I've got these young children, you have to help me. And look how he came through. So when you think things are really grim, be aware that you have to prostrate yourself to Bhagavan, and he will take care of things in ways that you may not expect. So that's one major event in my life that was handled, I shouldn't say handled, that was taken care of by Swami after I had said, Swami, you've got to help me. the second one, and I urge you all to go to saidarshan.org and read about this and other miracles that Swami performed for us in over the decades. My father wrote those stories, and you will find them very, very interesting. This picture that you see is actually the culmination. That boy standing in front of Swami is Harshavardhan. Swami very graciously performed the upanayanam of him and my nephews Jayavardhan and Aryavardhan. And so the Garbharaksha that Swami bestowed is shown here at the next stage of this young man's life. Now, the second amazing event in my life is started in 2002 at an interview where Swami started off by quizzing each one of us. Started with my father, and he said, "Hey," sorry, he didn't say "Hey." He said, "You are the grandfather of this young lady." And he was pointing to my daughter Sai Lakshmi, who was the oldest then at the time. He said, "She's now reaching the age where you should be looking for a suitable match for her." So my father shrugged his shoulders and said, "Swami, I don't know what to do." Then he turned to me and said, "You're the father. What are you doing?" And I could only just look sheepish. I didn't even have the courage to say anything. So then he turned to my wife, to Annapurna, and said, "What about you? You have to start thinking about this." Swami, and she just, she folded her hands and said, "Swami, you have to help us, show us the way." Then he turned to my mother and said, "You're the grandmother. This is your responsibility." And my mother immediately did a namaskaram to him and said, "Swami, I know nothing about these things. I was abroad all my life and now I'm here, but you have to show us, you have to do it." So Swami then looked pleased, because it must have been the faith and devotion in her face must have been clear to him, because then he looked pleased and he said, "Okay, I will take care of it." So then so we were all very happy, but we thought, now what do we do? This was 2002. Fast forward to 2008, and my elder brother Aryama and sister-in-law Bala and my other brothers had all spread the word among friends and relatives, friends here in New Jersey, about the prospects for my daughter. So one of the friends they had spoken to passed on this message to Mrs. Padmanabham, the wife of Dr. Padmanabham from Vrindavan, and the mother of Mrs. Geeta Ram. And Mrs. Padmanabham and my mother met, and they discussed about the fact that her grandson was also that they were looking for a suitable match for her grandson too, her grandson Varun. So I think about a week later, my brother Manohar was there at the time, my younger brother, and Swami called my mother and him in for an interview because they were about to fly to the United States. Swami approved the match and told my mother, "Go to America and finalize it." Sure enough, she called me in Vienna and said, "Swami told me to get everything finalized." So I said, "Wow, that's great, fantastic. Now what do I do?" She said, "Don't worry, I'm coming to America. Swami told me, and now we'll get started." So she came to America, and in short form, we arranged to meet the Ram family, Mohan Ram, Geeta Ram, and their children. And we made a trip to the United States in March, and we met them at my youngest brother Sanjay's house, and more or less finalize things in that sense. But the next step was, what do we do in terms of the wedding? All of us wanted to do it, have it done in Puttaparthi by Swami. That's what my mother said. She said, you as the father have to go now and ask Swami. So in May of 2008, I flew to India, to Vrindavan. Yes, in this picture, I'm sorry, I didn't give you the cue for the slide, but this was a picture taken in 2002 at the interview when he quizzed each of us about what we were doing. And the young lady in the light blue salwar kameez is my daughter, Sai Lakshmi. The middle one is Sivamala, and my son is Harshavardhan. In May, I went to Vrindavan to try to get some indication from Swami. Swami, I was there for a week or 10 days. Swami looked at me every day. He said nothing. But the one day when I was standing close to Trayi Vrindavan, the building in there, and Swami came out, he looked at me and I said, he's going to say something to me. And the only thing he said to me was, Ammella undiyan, which is, how is mother? And that's it. I didn't get another word from him after that. But of course, I said, Swami, Amma Baga undiyan, all well, thank you. But that was it. No instruction, no guidance. So I came back and I came back to Vienna. And my mother said, you have to persist. Swami wants you to persist because we asked him, prayed to him to carry out the wedding. So therefore, you have to also take some steps. This is not just a one-way thing where he gives everything. So I said, okay. Then in September, I went again to India. And this time, it was in Puttaparthi. And next picture, please. And this time, things really looked up because over the course of the week I was there, Swami talked to me several times. And the picture shows one instance where he called me over. This was shot by Sri Vednarayan. And I'm eternally grateful to him for taking this picture. So so in these conversations, Swami told me exactly what to do. He said, all of us should come by the 20th of October to Puttaparthi, and he would do the wedding at the start of the Kartika Masam, which would be early November. So that was it. We had our marching orders, and we all showed up. Mohan Ram and his family, and the prospective bridegroom, and all of us. We showed up on the 20th, and we sat there waiting, and the prospective bride would dress up every day for the morning and afternoon darshan. Because with Swami, when he says he will do something, you've got to be prepared. You just can't say, well, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. No, you've got to be prepared at that moment to stand up and let him do his, and do what he said he would. So we had to go prepared. So the prospective bridegroom, Varun would go dressed up, and my daughter too. So this went on, and then we came to end of October, and my brothers and their families all arrived. Other relatives arrived, and we were all anxious. We waited from 20th of October and we thought when the Kartika Masam comes, starting the 2nd of November, it's done. Well, 2nd came, nothing happened. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. But all of us felt that we are not budging from there until Swami himself says something. All these days, he didn't say anything. So we said, if we asked him to do something, we have to wait for him to do it. And that was our plan. Finally, on the 7th of November, which also happened to be my father's birthday, he called us in the morning. By then, some of our relatives had left because they had to go for jobs or so on, but everyone else who was still there from both wedding parties were called into the interview room. Now, you must picture how it was. We all crammed in. There was hardly any room to sit, to stand, let alone to sit. But somehow we managed to sit around Swami, especially with the prospective bride and groom in the front. And Swami, he waited for the auspicious time that only he knows. And then he started the ceremony. He recited the mantras one after the other. And then he materialized a Mangalasutram, a diamond a Mangalasutram for my daughter. He materialized a gold bracelet for my son-in-law. He explained the duties of marriage to both of them. And then he started to distribute saris. And then he allowed other people in the room. He talked to them. He had pictures taken. So we all and the wedding was over all this time. And we were all crammed in there, but all of us had a beautiful opportunity to see Swami instructing each one of us in the duties of life, and also inquiring about the welfare of each and every one. Thank you for the next. And at the end, this was what happened. They were both married in Swami's by Swami. If you look very carefully at the picture of my daughter down, you can see part of the Mangalasutra. You can see my son-in-law's bracelet on his hand that's holding Swami's hand. And then we all spilled out of the interview room in a very, very bedraggled bunch of us because it was hot in there. But Swami came out looking immaculate as always, not a wrinkle to be seen. And he was also very happy. He was smiling widely. We were told later that when he went into the bhajan hall, he was telling the students there, do you know how many people were in the interview room when I performed the wedding? 52 people, he said. There were 52 people telling him, and people were all thrilled that Swami was thrilled. And, but I need to backtrack just a little bit. If you go to the next picture, sir. Because at the end of the wedding ceremony, when everything had been done, Swami turned to look at my mother, and it was as if there were just the two people in that room. There was no one else. You wouldn't find 51 people in there. It was just Swami and my mother. He looked directly into my mother's eyes, and my mother looked back, and he said to her in Telugu, of course, he said to her, you see, I told you I would do the wedding. I always keep my word. I told you that. And my mother, all she could say was to do her namaskaram and bend her and bow her head in obeisance to Swami. And this to me is the main theme for the next slide, please. The main lesson I got from this is that I was just a messenger in all this. I was coming to India and taking back messages. The true connection goes back to 2002 when Swami looked in my mother's eyes and told her he would take care of everything because she surrendered herself. So when you read the highlighted text, it is only when Arjuna surrendered himself and confessed his ignorance that the Lord began to confide in him the supreme truth. In this case, when he saw the genuine surrender in my mother's eyes and voice in 2002, he gave her that promise that he would take care of things. And in 2008, as I said, it was as if there were just two people in that room. He turned to her and said, you see, I told you I would do this. I always keep my word to my devotees. So therefore, brothers and sisters, life gives us all kinds of challenges. In my case, as I just told you, he gave the challenge of when my wife had to go to the hospital for the birth of our third child. And then in this case, he guided us through a process that we really had no clue how to proceed. In both cases, you have to surrender to Swami. You have to look at him, at his picture, and say, Swami, I am helpless. I don't know what to do. Please help me. On that note, I'd like to stop now and say thank you, Sai Ram, for listening. Thank you for the opportunity that you have all given me. Jai Sai Ram.
Om Sri Sai Ram. My prayerful salutations at Bhagavan's lotus feet. Respected elders, dear brothers and sisters, as my brother Aryama mentioned and Ramesh now, we're very, very grateful for this golden opportunity to meet with all of you in Chennai. This opportunity you've given us allows us to recollect and relive and reconnect with Swami. So again, thank you, and we're very, very grateful for this chance. As Brother Ramesh was mentioning, surrender. This is one of the, between faith and surrender, these are some of the most important lessons for us as Sai devotees. If you could move to the next slide, please. I'm ever grateful to Swami for so many chances that he's given, for having been born and brought up in a Sai family. That itself is a great blessing that I'm ever grateful for. I saw Swami when I was a child in the early 60s. And ever since I grew up, Swami was God, God was Swami, and is Swami. But, a new facet of my, my experiences or the experiences of the divine were opened up to me when I joined Swami's college in 1981. And, truly, life is, living with Swami is really education. And as a student and as a lecturer with Swami in Swami's college, I had a lot of great opportunities to see divinity in action, I would say. I want to take you through a few pictures and some experiences. And on the screen you see here, some pictures of Swami. And as Brother Karthik mentioned in the beginning, and thank you for that. And I appreciate and I'm grateful to all the organizers for this beautiful Saptaham that you have all organized. I had the opportunity to take a lot of pictures. And again, this is an opportunity that Swami gave. We cannot take anything, we cannot do anything without his own blessings and with his concurrence. And so Swami gave me the golden opportunity to actually take his photos. And I'm ever grateful for that, to capture the life of the avatar. So going back to surrender, faith, and here the indweller. This was back in around 1989 or so. I was a lecturer in Vrindavan College there, Swami's College. And, I always had my camera with me, actually cameras, a couple of cameras. I'm grateful to Aryama and Ramesh and Manohar to, send from the US cameras and also film and other things that we couldn't get sometimes in India. So here, I had my cameras with me all the time. And this was one beautiful evening in Vrindavan. And as you know, in Vrindavan, Bangalore, Whitefield side, in those days it was lush with trees are outside the ashram. It's still like that inside the ashram. And it was a beautiful, cool evening. Swami had gone out for darshan to the Sai Ram shed. And that was in the old days when you had, the tree there with Krishna idol underneath and the Sai Ram shed on top. Beautiful scene, watching Swami gliding on the sands to all the devotees. And you see the faces of the devotees light up when Swami came. That was a sight to behold. So Swami had done his round of meeting the devotees, taking care of their questions, providing love. And as he came back, just near the gate of Trai Vrindavan compound, there's a tulsi plant. And Swami walked past that tulsi plant, and as he was walking past, he just plucked a tulsi leaf. Now, when Swami does anything, there's always a reason. So he took the tulsi plant and he twirled it in his in his fingers, and he was walking through. And all the students were sitting there in front of Trai Vrindavan, and it's another sight to behold is when Swami, with his finger, messages to the students to go inside Trai Vrindavan into the front hall, and all the students ran in. I think that's the only time Swami allows indiscipline in the sense running, because everybody wants to come and sit next to Swami's chair. So everybody sat there, and Swami walked into Trai Vrindavan, and there he was twirling this tulsi plant, and we knew something was up. The air was electric. Now, whenever Swami is ready to do something, you could always feel, it's the hairs on your arm or on the back of your neck always just start tingling. And so I had my so I knew, from taking pictures that I need to keep my camera ready. And so I kept the camera ready, and then Swami walked in, and then he held up, and if you can see the picture in the top left of the screen, he held up the tulsi leaf and he asked everybody, "What is this?" And then all the students said, "Swami, this is a tulsi leaf." Then he said, "Is it?" Then in the top right, you see he put his hand to his mouth and he just blew on it. And that same tulsi leaf turned into gold. And you can see that in the bottom left picture. And then Swami asked at that point, "So what is this now? Is this the same tulsi leaf?" And then all the students said, "No, Swami, it's not the same tulsi leaf. It's gold now. You have turned it to gold." Then Swami said, "Is it?" Then Swami broke a piece of the tulsi leaf, the gold tulsi, and inside was actually the green leaf. So Swami had just blown on it and covered it immediately with gold. Not only his heart is gold, but his breath is gold here. And so here, with the breath, the divine breath, he turned it into gold. But then he broke it to show the tulsi leaf inside. Then he said, "See, the tulsi leaf is there. It's just covered in gold." And at that time, we were all in awe because, whenever Swami makes these pronouncements, you feel that electricity in the air. And at that time, then Swami said, divinity is always there. You just have to look at it. Don't get enamored by what is outside. The divine is everywhere. He is the indweller. And so then, we were, at that time, this is how Swami taught. He taught through example, through experiences, and like this, through miracles. Then he always, he creates this awe, but then at that point, we are in awe of the divine. And so to bring it back down and so that it is seared into our hearts, Swami then jokes. So then he took, in that last picture you see, Swami then said, okay, he took the tulsi leaf with gold on it and again blew on it and said, and then he took the tulsi leaf out and said, "See, here it is." And now it was back to its original form of the same tulsi leaf without gold. Then everybody was really so happy. And then Swami said, "Who wants this? Who wants this?" And everybody was hoping to get that from Swami. And then Swami just took it, popped it in his mouth and ate it and laughed. And everybody was so overjoyed. And so I was able to capture that moment. But ultimately, what really is captured is that Swami is the indweller. For us to have that faith, to have that surrender, we have to believe he is the indweller, and we have to listen to that indweller. And how do we listen to that indweller? Well, it's all through the sadhana. It's through all the activities that we do, to the Sai centers, to listening to his discourses. We are lucky that we have so many discourses available through video and through book form. Sometimes, So this indweller is there for all of us. And once we listen to our conscience, which is the Atma, then we are listening to the indweller. And we can then carry on in the way that he feels. And that is how I feel. Well, I'm a human being, and unfortunately, as much as I'd like to be always on the, keeping my mind focused on Swami, sometimes these human failings are there, and I'm the first to admit that. And so this was, I'll narrate another experience. So this was back when I joined BCom in 1981. Swami was most gracious. We had come for my younger brother Sanjay's upanayanam in 1981. I was already studying in the US, and we had come to studying college in the US, and I had come to India along with my parents and Sanjay and brothers for the upanayanam of Sanjay. And Sanjay will talk about that tomorrow. But after the upanayanam, our parents asked Swami if we can both join Swami's college, Sanjay and myself. And at that time, Sanjay was still studying in middle school and hadn't finished high school yet. So Swami asked him to join after high school. In my case, Swami said, yes, Ravi Shankar can join. So I'm ever grateful for that opportunity. Swami says the mother is the first guru. So it is Swami says, the mother, when the child is born, the first person the child sees is mother. And it is the mother who points to tell the child who is the father. And it is the father who points to the guru, to the child. And it is the guru who then points to God. In this case, I'm ever grateful to my grandparents and my parents for showing me directly to Guru and God, Swami. And so I joined Swami's college. And that was in 1981. So coming back to why I'm relating this experience. So I had come from the US, born and brought up in the US. And now here I was in Swami's college. It was a fantastic opportunity. And, there are a lot of experiences that happened, but this one experience I want to mention. So in 1984, in my third year BCom, just about halfway through the year, you have to start at that point. I was doing my BCom course, and then after BCom, what would one do? Certainly everybody would want to stay with Swami and do an MCom or an MSc or whatever course that you're in. The longer you can stay with Swami, the better. And so this is what everybody's motivation is. And here I was born in a Sai family, I now have a opportunity to be in the divine presence of the Lord. And so here I was, and somehow this is what the mind plays tricks. And this is where I didn't listen to the indweller. So at that point, I knew this is where the avatar is, this is where I must be. But then I was trying to think logically. And as Ramesh mentioned, when you surrender, when you put your faith, you don't have any other thoughts. You just stick to the course. And our parents always taught that, stay the course, stay firm to Swami. And in this case, at that time in my third year, I wrote a letter to Swami in my foolishness, saying, Swami, I want to stay with you here, but should I stay here or should I go back to the US and do my MBA? Now, why that silly thought came into my mind, we don't give options to the Lord. You place your faith and your devotion at him. And here I was. So here, what I'm trying to explain is that no matter how close we are, no matter how active we are, we have to always guard our mind and our hearts to listen to the indweller. The indweller was telling me, you're going to stay here. But my mind was trying to think logically. Should I do this or that? Do I give options to Swami and he tells me what to do? That's not the way. And so as soon as I gave that letter to Swami, that's it. Swami never looked at me for 3 months. That is the worst feeling. You're sitting there in the veranda. There were only 150 students, 200 students at that time. And we were sitting in the veranda of the mandir. And Swami would come. And till then, Swami was looking, smiling, talking occasionally to me. And then after I gave that letter, that foolish letter, Swami stopped looking at me. stopped talking to me, and he started looking through me. And I think some of you who would have seen Swami do this, it's the worst feeling where you don't exist. And this is Swami's way of teaching, of making us introspect. And he was making me introspect. And so then over these 3 months, I realized my folly, that when you put your faith in Swami, when you surrender to Swami, and I can't say that I've fully surrendered. I wish I can say that, but we all have our own limitations, but we have to overcome these. And so in this case, I made that one foolish mistake of listening to my mind and not the indweller. And so at that point, 3 months were over and our final exams were coming. And in those days, you had final exams where it wasn't the semester scheme yet. And that one exam for all the subjects covered the whole year. And as the exams were coming close, suddenly my wrist, where I had already a fracture and a steel plate in there from my days in the US, that wrist blew up like this, like a balloon with tendonitis. It was a very painful thing. I was trying to study, but I couldn't study. I couldn't write because it was all swollen. And so at that time, who do we go to? We go to Swami. He's our mother, father, guru, God. And so at that time, I wanted to go and sit up front. So we had to take permission from the hostel warden. And the hostel warden said, no, you can't go sit up front first. You have to go to the hospital first and meet Dr. Alreja. Great soul, Dr. Alreja, and from the old days. And so he said, no, you go to see Dr. Alreja, then only you can go sit up front. So I had to do that. So I went to see Dr. Alreja in the general hospital. There was no super specialty hospital at that time. Then Swami, Dr. Alreja looked at it and said, oh, you know what? I'll take care of it afterwards. Maybe you have to cut it or do an operation. You come back after the darshan. I said, Sairam, thank you, sir. And I said, I have to go to darshan. And my intention was not to go back. I wanted to only Swami. So I went and sat right up front, first pillar. And that's when Swami, and I was just sitting there waiting. And then the thought really came to me at that point. I forgot about my foolishness, but I also felt that, Swami, you're everything to me. And somehow that feeling came in there in genuineness. And that's when Swami's door opened, of the bhajan, of his interview room door. And we would all be waiting for that moment when Swami opens the door. And he opened the door with a smile, and you could feel the cool breeze and the fantastic fragrance of Swami. And then he looked at, and remember, all these months, he was not at all talking to me or even looking at me. So here I was sitting up front, and on the one side, my mind was saying, is he going to look at me or talk to me? On the other side, my heart was telling me, he is God, he's going to take care of you. And sure enough, he walked straight up to me and looked at me and said, Amy, what happened? And then I got up and I just pointed to my hand and said, and then Swami said, I know, everything will be fine. And he waved his hand in his inimitable way and created some vibhuti and rubbed on my hand. And from that day in 1984 till today, I've never had any issues with this hand. Immediately within the next day, that swelling went down. But that was not the end of it. As Swami rubbed his hand on rubbed vibhuti on my hand, he looked at me and he was smiling, and I was just, I was moved to tears, because this was the first time in 3 months Swami was talking. And this moment, at that time, it was as if Swami, that those 3 months of my foolishness never happened. And this is the forgiving Lord. He just spoke as if nothing happened. And that is what we have to feel, that he's always there for us. And then he took 2 steps and walked away. And I did namaskar. He asked me to do namaskar. I did that. And he started walking away 2 steps. Then he turned around and see this. He turned around, looked at me and said, you just stay here and you can do MCOM here. Imagine that. After 3 months of my foolish letter, he knew, he taught me, And he asked me to introspect. And when I felt that genuineness and listened to the indweller, then he opened up and said, you stay here and do your MCOM. And that's what I did. And so the lesson for me was that don't think of the mind, think of the heart, listen to the indweller, and he will always respond. Sairam, if you could move to the next slide, please. So here is Swami, who's the indweller. He's the living and loving God. And, in the past few days, Aryama and others have spoken about Swami as the Veda Purusha. Here are some pictures I took of Swami during Dasara Yajnas. And again, you would see Swami in the bottom right. He's sitting there as the presiding deity in front of the homam there. Next slide, please. Here's another 2 pictures I took. Again, beautiful opportunity to sit up front and take these shots. And you could see the majesty and glory. And the bottom right picture with the flames and Swami, this was, for the pandits there, it is their a lifelong goal that they have achieved by having the Veda Purusha sitting there when they do this yajna. It was a fantastic sight. So Swami, is the Veda Purusha. He has revived the Vedas. He teaches us the meanings. If you go to the next slide, please. And, my brother Aryama, in the last few sessions, he mentioned one episode of the Sanatan Sarati, and there at the top right, you see Swami's reading a Sanatan Sarati. And the episode of how grandfather, when our father had asked grandfather about Swami's every word being Vedas. And I won't go into the episode because Aryama had already mentioned it, but, grandfather, because of his knowledge, because of his background and experience and his understanding of the Vedas, he had the qualifications to be able to actually reference Swami's words as back from the Vedas. And so here, here's the Swami, the Veda Purusha, who teaches us, for somebody like our grandfather, he spoke in Sanskrit, he spoke in, high philosophy that none of us and speaking for myself, I did not understand, honestly, and I regret that all my life. But this was such high philosophy and language that I couldn't understand. For our father, who was also a Vedic Pandit from an early days, but then he went off to English education, as my father, as brother said. But still Swami engaged with him at his level, and you can see that picture on the left that I took, where Swami was guiding father with this Veda Parishat that Swami had asked father to arrange in Puttaparthi. And so Swami in this photo was actually going through the list of Vedic Pandits father was inviting and the agenda for this program. And so father and grandfather both were vessels or instruments that Swami used to actually reveal the Sai Gayathree, the Sai Hiranyagarbha Gayathree, and the Sai Surya Gayathree. But then from their end, they had to have the qualifications, have the ability and skill to be able to be those instruments. So the lesson for me there is I always have to try my best to be as much of an instrument, of a positive instrument, and I have to make the effort to become a quality instrument for Bhagavan, so that if he chooses, then we should, as Ramesh was saying, we should always be ready. Well, in this case, we should always be ready. And one thing I'm always impressed of the Sai organization and Sai devotees, and I've seen the pictures from Chennai and the alumni forum of how all the Sai devotees in Chennai, Bangalore, all over India, how they've cared for all of those people who were suffering during this COVID crisis, the migrant laborers, and all the seva that's being done. I do my pranams to all of you for such fantastic seva that you're all doing. So again, going back to Swami as the Veda Purusha, he reveals these great truths through instruments. but all of us really are instruments here. And you'll see at the top left, there's Swami. And why did I include this picture? So I took this picture during one of Swami's birthdays, where Swami was walking around and throwing laddus. And Swami, for those who play sports, Swami's his aim was fantastic. He could easily clean bowl anybody, I would say. He would throw a laddu far and it would fall straight into the hands of the person he intended it to. And why I put this picture of laddus is my father loved laddus. And there's an experience of how Swami, the Veda Purusha taught people, and he was teaching us all the time through discourses. He teaches all of us, even now. But back in, this was early 60s and 1960s. And that time, I was born and brought up in US in 1960. Parents moved to India. Father was with UNICEF. And so his responsibility with UNICEF was for South Asia and for the Far East. And so that opportunity to be in Delhi with UNICEF gave him an opportunity to visit Swami much more often than when he was in the US. So on one of his trips to Southeast Asia, our father's practice was always come to Swami first, do namaskar, take his permission, then go on your office trip. Then on the way back, stop again, see Swami, and then come home. So in this instance, this was in the mid 1960s, father flew from Delhi to Bangalore and took a car, and he wanted to have Swami's darshan before he caught the flight from Madras. And so he flew to Bangalore, took a car. In those days, it took a long ride from Bangalore to Puttaparthi. Imagine that was in the 1960s. Roads were not as good as now. And so he reaches Puttaparthi and it's already afternoon. And our father's flight was from Bangalore to Chennai or Madras in those days was later that night. And so our father reached late afternoon. And the flight was late in the night. So he was hoping to just at least get a darshan and go back. But by that time, Swami had gone up. So now what to do? Swami had already retired to his room, and here father couldn't stay. Otherwise, he had to drive back again 6 to 7 hours to Bangalore to catch the flight, to go to Chennai and catch an early morning flight out of India. As he was thinking like this, and this is all this our father had recounted to us, as he was speaking, as he was waiting and thinking like this outside Swami's mandir in those days, somebody came running and said, Subba Rao Garu, Swami is calling you upstairs. So here, Swami was already upstairs. Swami knew he had come, and he had just called him and said, please come upstairs. So Swami called our father upstairs to his bedroom. And Swami's room was a multi-purpose. Our father used to explain, just a simple bed, a simple cot, nothing fancy, one table and one chair. And at that one table and chair, Swami would sit and write all his Sanatan Sarati articles, the Vahinis, all of the writings, letters he wrote to devotees would be at that chair and table. So there's nothing. So our father explained later, it was a very sparse room. The mandir looks so opulent from outside, inside Swami's room, simple. So Swami called him, and Swami was sitting on the bed, and father came and sat at his feet. And Swami, and mind you, our father flew from Delhi, came to Bangalore, immediately took a car, came to Puttaparthi. He hadn't eaten anything. He hadn't drunk anything. He was very thirsty, hungry, but here he was with Swami. So everything melted away. And Swami started talking to him about a lot of Vedic items, which I don't know at this point, but our father was mentioning, he was talking about, our father always read. He read the scriptures, he took notes, he bought so many books. Our basement in our house in New York was library full of Vedic texts and spiritual books. And even in Puttaparthi, his flat, he always had the books there. So he was constantly a voracious reader so that he could always, remember Bhagavan. So here Swami was talking and father started taking notes, and then Swami said, it's okay, you don't need to write it down. It'll all be there, just keep it in your heart. And so as he was listening, he was hungry, he was thirsty. And that's when Swami noticed this. And since he hadn't eaten all day since the morning, Swami waved his hand, created a beautiful laddu. And our father, the way he explained was fantastic. He had a very good way with words. And it was a warm laddu dripping with the sugar syrup. And he asked father to extend his arm, and he put it in his hand and he said, "Tinese." And so then he ate it. And normally he would keep it and take it home and give it to the family. But Swami said, no, you're hungry. You have a long journey. And so he asked him to eat it. He ate it. Then he gave him some water because he was thirsty. And this is the love of Bhagavan. He knew that his devotee was hungry and thirsty. And also, how can you listen to philosophy with hunger? And so Swami slated his hunger and also his spiritual hunger as well. And now father was thinking, I have to catch a flight now. And here Swami is talking more and more. And so then Swami himself, again, he understood and he said, "Imparole Subba Rao, your flight will be there. Don't worry, your flight will still be there." And so even though it was getting late, so he did namaskar, he stayed there. And as he left, Swami blessed him, and then he raced, told the driver to go as fast as possible. It was already past the flight time. And by the time he reached Bangalore, it was late. But as Swami mentioned, the flight was delayed and the flight stayed and not for our father, but it was just delayed. And Swami knew all this. And so he gave him the spiritual teachings and the love at that time. So this is, the Veda Purusha who teaches and he guides and guards. If you could move to the next slide, please. Yeah, I put this picture of our mother here with Swami, and this was taken, just after our father merged into Swami. And, I won't go into a lot of detail here because Brother Sanjay and others will talk tomorrow. But Swami is a loving God, and he's Veda Purusha. Yes, he sticks to the scriptures. For our grandfather, he spoke in Vedic terms. When our grandfather merged into Swami, he got all the rites done from a Vedic standpoint, using all the rules and whatever procedures needed to be done. For our father, same thing. But then but one thing with Swami is he's not bound by rituals and customs. And I'll just briefly mention here that in our case of our mother, father just passed away, had merged into Swami. And first thing when we all landed, and Sanjay had the opportunity to be there, but first thing when we landed, all the other brothers, we all came and sat in front of Swami's interview room door and before darshan. And, this was just after father had merged into Swami, mother was in the flat, and we were sitting in the front of the interview room door in Puttavarthi. And at that time, Swami opened the door. We all fell at his feet. Father had merged into Swami. We didn't know what to say, what to do. And Swami said, "I'm there. I will take care. I'll get everything done for Subba Rao." Then he looked at us, and during the course of the conversation, he said about mother, he said, "Don't remove this and don't remove this," in terms of don't remove the bottu and don't remove the bangles. He said that she is always a dirgha sumangali, she is a nitya sumangali, and don't remove that. So Swami is not bound by rituals and customs. Here is a lady from a Vedic family, and there are certain things that happen, but in this case, Swami said no. He said, and Brother Sanjay will talk more about this, but the relationship of the uniqueness of the Sai avatar is that it's a heart-to-heart, one-to-one relationship between God and his devotees. And in the case of mother, yes, she was Ghandikota Subba Rao's wife, and for 60 years, and she was the daughter-in-law of Ghandikota Subrahmanya Sastry, but that was not the qualifications. The qualification is she had a heart-to-heart relationship with Swami, and Swami said, I will take care of you, and you stay here. So after father merged into Swami, Swami kept her there, and I'll leave it to Sanjay to talk tomorrow about that. If you could move to the next slide, please. So ultimately, for people, so for those like Ghandikota Subrahmanya Sastry, he spoke in Vedic terms. For Ghandikota Subba Rao Garu, he spoke in his terms. For people like me who know not only Sanskrit, but I don't know Telugu, only speaking, but not reading and writing, I didn't have that background. Swami, in one of his discourse, synthesized the essence of all Vedas into this term that we are all so familiar with now: love all, serve all, help ever, hurt never. What beauty is there in that? I mean, it is, yes, we can sit and get the pleasure of reading the scriptures, the Vedas, learn Sanskrit, and a lot of foreigners, Indians, everybody has learned Sanskrit. A lot of devotees here in the US in the past used to say, I'm learning Telugu because that is the language of our God, of Swami. So yes, we can do all of that, but he still synthesized all of it into these two terms here. If you could move to the next slide, please. Love all, serve all. How do we love all and how do we serve all? It's a great saying, and it's a tough concept to have that love for all. And Swami, and I know I'm getting short on time here, so I'll quickly run through this very important incident. This was back in the late 1980s, where Swami was, where I was teaching in Whitefield College, and during the holidays, students and as lecturers, we were allowed by Swami to come to visit Puttaparthi. This was between Dasara and birthday times. And at that time, Swami had called us in for an interview, the students and the teachers. And again, like Ramesh said, that interview room is like it's made out of rubber, or it expands. So we were quite a lot of students, about 40 or 50 students, plus another 10 lecturers and warden. So there were quite a lot of us in that room, but nobody felt anything. Swami, how Swami would, as he brings everybody into the interview room, he's the last to enter. And he himself does everything. He closes the door. Then everybody sits down on the floor. Swami asks everybody to sit, and that's Swami's chair there. Then he slowly walks over to the light and fan switches, turns them on to make everybody comfortable. Then he goes and sits. But here, before he sat, he looked at everybody, and then he raised his palm like this, and he said, "What is this? What is in my hand?" And the students, all who were there with Swami, everybody knew, here's the divine. So Swami, with one voice, they all said, "Swami, everything is in your hand." And Swami said, good boys, good boys. Then he waved his hand like this and created that huge diamond that you see there. And then he said, and it was an electric time. And then Swami put that hand up, that diamond, and showed it to everybody and said, "What is this?" Everybody said, "Diamond." What is the value of this diamond?" Swami asked. Then everybody said, "Swami, it's priceless." Then Swami said, "Yes, it's priceless." But then he asked one very pertinent question: who gives value to this? Everybody was silent, because we knew you don't talk in front of Swami. You wait for Swami to give the truths. And so then Swami said, "It is man that gives it value. Therefore, man is more valuable than the diamond." So here, when he talks about love all, serve all, we have to see that indweller, see that divinity in all, because ultimately it is man that is more valuable than everything that is around. And so when Swami was saying this, that it is man that is more valuable than the diamond, it was as if we were transported into a different world, I can tell you. We saw that with the authority, the way Swami said, it was as if everything fell away. He was up there like Vishnu. And seeing that awe in everybody, again, Swami brings it down so that he reduces that separation of God and man through very familiar terms. And so seeing that separation and that too much of awe where that causes a distance, he then broke the tension, or broke that sense of awe. So he put the diamond in his hand like this, and he said, "Hey, Ravi Shankar, take a picture." So I always had my camera, and so I was taking pictures. So then this was old film cameras with no autofocus, so you had to focus. So as I was focusing, he blew on his hand, and diamond disappeared. And the fantastic scene, everybody laughed. So he broke the tension there. Then immediately from the truth that man is more valuable than the diamond, he comes to start asking, so what did you all have for breakfast? Then everybody said, Swami, we had idlis in the canteen. Oh, were they big idlis or small idlis? Then he asked, are they rock idlis or are they soft idlis? Imagine, this is the Lord who is telling us truths now coming down to the point of idlis. And he wanted to make sure not only that he gives us the truth, but comes close to us. Please move to the next slide, please.
Madam Sir, sorry to interrupt your
Yes.
talk. We have a daily sadhana of Sai Gayathree chanting, which is going
Sure.
on for the last 3 months. But this is not in any way to interrupt your talk. I beg pardon, Swami, and forgiveness. We want to continue the Saptaham, and it would be great to have you again, possibly on Monday, if it is possible.
Sure.
We'll discuss the schedule, because I think this is not even the tip of the iceberg, spiritual iceberg, as we call it. So, on behalf of the Sri Satya Sai organizations, Tamil Nadu East Coast District, and because we have to chant the Sai Gayathree itself, we will have to conclude the talk today. But the number of comments and feedback which we are getting live on various channels, people are asking for more from you. They want Ravi Shankar Garu to come back. So on that prayer note and request, we thank you, and especially also Ramesh Garu in the beginning. Oh my God, what a talk on surrender, faith, and literally an eye-opener of all sorts for us. I think we should do a monthly and not a weekly saptah. We should do something like a month, and still we'll not be done with the Ghandikota family. So we're very grateful to Ramesh Garu also, and to you, Ravi. We have not yet done with you. As I said, we will revisit the schedule of this Saptaham and see if we can definitely add on another day, so that we can have more from you.
Thank you. And my apologies for continuing late. But again, when you think of, we start remembering Swami, it's like a flood of experiences. So again, I'm grateful.
I feel guilty to have stopped you, but it's just that we have to do the Sai Gayathree chanting, and that is the Saptaham. So,
what's more important is the chanting, because ultimately that is how we connect with Bhagavan. So thank you again, grateful for this opportunity.
Sairam Ramesh Garu, we can see you also. Sairam, thank you so much. Wonderful narration, and we really, really appreciate this. And I will request the host to play the concluding video for today only, and request our viewers to come back tomorrow, because we have Manohar Garu and we have Sanjay Garu. And we also have the Sai Gayathree Homa, which will be streamed live after the daily bhajans in the morning at around 9:45 a.m. Details will be shared separately. But we will request you all to come back tomorrow, and again come back on Sunday and Monday, where we will have more from the Ghandikota.
Sairam. Sairam to all.
Okay, the video.
अल्लाह तेरो नाम साई, मौला तेरो नाम, अल्लाह तेरो नाम साई, मौला तेरो नाम, अल्लाह तेरो नाम साई, मौला तेरो नाम, अल्लाह तेरो नाम
Madam Venkat Garu will just do the formal vote of thanks for a minute. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, Sri Ramesh Garu and Ravi Shankar Garu. What a wonderful talk today. On behalf of Chennai East Coast District and Sri Sai Seva Kendra, we thank you very much for taking time out, sharing wonderful experiences. And we had to really cut this because of this person, the sadhana time, Sai Gayathree chanting time. Apologies for that, and we request you to join us again. We will agree on a convenient time based on your availability. But we really want to continue this session and listen more from you. We will conclude today's session with Samastaloka, and we will again assemble tomorrow, 7:15 p.m. for the regular session, and then tomorrow morning, Gayatri Home session also is there, and we will announce that in WhatsApp groups. Thank you very much for joining this. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Jai Bola Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba Ji ki Jai.